It is not true that tattoos can withstand fire. At least, not the tattoo on Jordan's wrist. It is melting as she watches, the purple dye dripping, sliding across her hand, a hot river. It takes an eternity to travel from the blue line of her vein to the mole just underneath the knuckle of her ring finger. She wonders where it will stop. She wonders if the butterfly that it once was will sear up to the surface of her skin and evaporate into the thin June air. She wonders whether some part of it will remain, whether the skin will harden across it, etch it into her bone. She holds the Bic lighter in her other hand, her right one, and stares at the flame on her left wrist as it starts to lick and spit toward the ceiling. She is standing in the kitchen of her parents' summer house, and it is midnight. Midnight at least, because her older sister Lisbeth is asleep, and the loons down at the lake are trilling like a ward of insane asylum patients, and the light at the Turner's place next door is out, and she can hear their voices starting up. The hoarse rasping of Sheila Turner, "Get out, you motherfucker," and the lower, calmer register of Adam Turner, "Sheila, please, the children." And now the sleeve of her bathrobe is a torch, and her mother's voice is shrieking above everything, "Dennis, the extinguisher!" And she feels nothing, only hears the sizzle as the cloud of chemicals sprays across her arm and body. And then she is lying on the sofa, her mother kneeling beside her, "Drink this." And she takes the huge white pills offered without asking what they are for. The room is shadows, nothing clear, but she knows that he is not here, her father. If she listens, she can hear his voice from the other room, speaking low on the telephone. But she doesn't want to listen, so she closes her eyes and listens instead to the humming inside her head. She had walked down to the shore alone that evening, went there to hear the quiet lapping of the water like milk, to get away from the wall of her mother's silence, her sister's chronic sarcasm, the rumbling of her father's discontent. She had failed at something, displeased them somehow. Was it the new spider inked across her left shoulder, or was it that they had somehow learned about Matt? She wasn't sure, and she wasn't sure it mattered. In the end, it always came to this, and she'd managed to ruin another family vacation only one day into it. The voice in the other room stops, and Jordan's chest tightens, and suddenly she can feel everything. It is as though a gaping hole has opened up in her arm, as though some demon has gouged away at it with a curved, hot claw. She moves her eyes to look, but there is pain there too. The millimeter shift in her vision, sending new waves of it rippling through her body, so she closes them again. Her father is coming into the room now. She can hear by the soft thuds on the floorboards. Thud, thump, his right leg always landing harder than his left, some old tennis injury. "Mom," she whispers, and what she means to say is, "I don't want him here." But what comes out is a groan. Her mother shushes her, pats her shoulder, shifts the towel on her arm to a new side so the cool can again suck out the searing heat. "They're on their way," she hears her father say. "Did they say how long?" her mother murmurs. "Rumford's an hour, you know that." "This is not my fault," her mother spits. Jordan has never heard her mother speak like this to her father. She wonders what she knows. She wonders what she's seen or imagined. The burn sears again. She wants to grab her arm right where the pain is and squeeze it until she wrings everything out. It had started with the etching. It was an impulse she had, childish perhaps, but she had followed it. The first one on Lisbeth's door jamb, she had taken her penknife and carved a careful fuck just below the latch, where her sister might see it and then again might not. She attempted a skull and crossbones, but the look was too tic-tac-toe instead of rat poison. She thought she needed to do better. Cunt on the inside of the locker next to hers. She'd wedged it open, bang, metal on metal, while Matt walked by without turning his head. Better words, she thought. I can do better. She borrowed Lisbeth's SAT prep book. Ersatz she etched into the seat of the oak chair she sat on in Mr. Lacuna's office, while he closed his eyes and leaned way back in his desk chair, as if to maximize the distance between them. Mr. Lacuna, Mr. Deconinck, her therapist, her ersatz doctor. "So Matt was your third partner," he was saying. Jordan finished the Z without watching her knife, looking instead at Lacuna's face for the moment the eyes opened, snap like Venetian blinds, the eyes transparent as glass. "Do you think you know what love is?" he asked. It was a trick question. She knew. There was no right answer. He looked for ways to assert his intelligence over hers, only he wasn't more intelligent. They both knew that, so he muscled his way around with his age and theoretical experience. "You will understand this when you're older," he would stare, or, "Oh, to be so young and naive," he would smile condescendingly. When his eyes landed on her breasts, he always looked away too fast. "Excuse me, where is your wife?" Jordan demanded one session. When they'd started, there were 2 ersatz doctors. Now there was only one. Laconic cleared his throat. "We only work together for the full family sessions." "Where is my family?" Jordan asked. "Your mother," he pieced the words together carefully as though they might break if strung all together too closely, "thought individual sessions might be more helpful." "You don't agree." She sat up from her slump. Her black thrift store polyester dress slid across her bare legs, revealed the lace of tattoos up her inner thigh. His eyes brushed across them, snapped back up to her face, the clear glass clouding. "I was interested," he admitted, clearing his throat again. "I was interested to see where things might go with everyone present, to explore those relationships right on stage, as it were." Ah, that was it, on stage, with Mrs. Lacuna, aka Dr. Ava Frank, as the stage director, fitting the part perfectly, all sharp angles to her husband's softness, the cat's eye glasses with the tiny diamonds in the corner that flashed each time she turned her face. All angles in order. She had announced the case in the first 5 minutes, as though to make clear to herself what she was doing there. "Everyone is worried about you, Jordan, your mother, your sister. They learned about your risky behavior." Perfidious. If she had been at home, she might have etched it on her sister's headboard, but for lack of a surface, she imagined etching it right into the skin of Dr. Frank's forehead as she sat there enumerating all of their shortcomings. And the 4 of them there, her parents and her sister and herself, all gape-mouthed, actors stripped of their scripts, nothing more to say. Had she really thought, this Dr. Frank, Mrs. Laconic, Mrs. Can't Shut Myself Up, did she really think that theirs was the kind of family who actually spoke about these things out loud to each other? That any one of them would dare to say the word sex, even in a completely non-contextualized way? They were all the accused. They were all prisoners, bound at the hand and feet to their chairs, unable to move in their shock, the admittance of everyone's guilt. Well, except her father, his part in the whole drama anonymous. He acted guiltless and embarrassed, looking away from all of them, ashamed of these women, these girls, his family. Maybe he found solace in Mr. Lacuna's presence, the 2 men, mute, distant, and beyond all the static of the women rubbing up against each other. Or maybe he just thought Mr. Lacuna was a weak and silly man with a tyrannical wife. By the time the ambulance arrives, the horse pills her mother gave her are starting to work. Jordan sees everything as though from underwater, faces rippling and dissolving. She lies back and lets arms enfold her, laying her across blankets cooled from the outside night air. "One of you can accompany her in the ambulance," she hears someone say. Thud, thump on the creaking porch steps behind her. Her blood turns and turns inside her body. Someone, a woman, takes her right hand and turns it over, smooths it out as though preparing to read her future. She realizes she is still holding the Bic. The woman removes it gently, holds her wrist to take her pulse. She can feel her father's shadow across her face and can imagine the crease between his brows, the worry lines edging his eyes. She wants to roll away from him so he cannot see her face. She is too aware of her lips, too self-conscious of her tongue as it slips out to wet them. When the door slams behind her, she expects darkness to descend inside the ambulance, like the back of a mafia van, but of course it is bright white, like the inside of a doctor's office, like the inside of the gynecologist's office her mother made her go to after their first appointment with the Lacunas, after it had been made clear to all that Jordan had been screwing every boy she was able to. Sexually active, the gynecologist had called it, and spoken like this, coming from this woman doctor's voice, it had sounded so important and at the same time, so normal. Under the bright lights, Jordan cannot sleep, but she also cannot open her eyes, the lights piercing through her envelope of tranquility, penetrating like needles through her eyelids. She feels her father take her good hand. He strokes it with soft back and forth caresses, fatherly caresses she wishes she could think. And maybe it is this time, but there have been too many that are not fatherly, and she cannot tell the difference anymore. She pulls her hand away, sensing her father's sorrowful helplessness at the gesture. If men cried, she thinks, he would cry, and she would be the reason.